I was recently asked, I think it was on YouTube, it may have been on Instagram, if I had any tips on how to start a low-carb diet for a person who eats a lot of carbohydrates. And I think I'm the right person to ask because I'm a recovering sugar addict who no longer eats any carbs at all. Okay? So I kind of started thinking back to when I was overweight, to when I was carb addicted. Started thinking back to what it was like when I was basically working a lot, eating just one meal a day. Okay, usually something I got from a Burger King, actually. I was living in Germany at the time, so the food in Burger King was a little bit different. It was like a long, kind of like hoagie bread, kind of like a submarine sandwich bread with 2 burger patties on it, bunch of cheese, a bunch of jalapenos. I always had extra bacon. Let's see what else. Oh, and I drank like a 6-pack of cola beer. Okay, cola beer is basically half beer and half Coca-Cola. Okay, that a lot of Germans drink. So I would go ahead. Oh, and cheese balls. Okay, jalapeno and cheese balls. Is what I got. I got a family size pack of them. So that's what I would do. I really wouldn't eat a whole lot all day. I drink a lot of coffee with sugar and cream, of course. And then at night, I grab a 6-pack of cola beer, grab one of those big sandwiches, a family size portion of those cheese balls, and a large fries. And I probably got a soda with the meal too. So cola beer and a normal cola. And that's basically what I ate every day for months on end. So, overweight, sugar addicted, how did I get off of it? Interestingly enough, I used to say that it was Vince Gironda's steak and eggs diet that was my first experience with low carbs. But back then, when I was getting in shape after being so overweight and being so unhealthy, it was actually not a cyclic ketogenic diet like Vince Gironda's diet. It was a targeted ketogenic diet or a targeted carbohydrate intake diet, okay? So it was lower carbs, but it was not zero carbs. What I basically did was I took a drink, okay, that included carbohydrates right before and right after I worked out. So I still had my glycogen stores in my muscles, okay? I still had energy to work out, which is interesting. It's very important because I just kind of started working out again. Obviously, hadn't been working out when I was just eating this rubbish and getting fat. So I had some carbohydrate to fuel my workouts, had some carbohydrate to recover from my workouts, but I didn't have any other carbohydrates, okay? Now, interestingly enough, this also solved a lot of my kind of like mental problems that I was having in my relationship with carbohydrates. Because I was not depriving my body 100% of carbohydrates. I still had, carbs before and after I worked out, but it was no longer directly eating carbohydrates, okay? So it wasn't like I was eating, rice or potatoes or bread or anything. All I was basically having was this drink. It was basically a protein shake, okay, with carbs in it. So my body still had some carbohydrates, but my mind I was mentally teaching myself to wean myself off of carbohydrates. You might think of it like, when you go into a casino and you don't really feel like you're spending money because, you're playing with these chips. Well, of course, every time you throw down a chip, it's $20 or $50 or $100, but you don't really feel like it because it's not actual money you're throwing down. It's just a little piece of plastic. And that's the same thing that I was doing. Like, I was getting in carbohydrates, but I wasn't eating donuts, I wasn't eating bread, I wasn't eating pasta. I was just, drinking the shake. So my body still had it, but it wasn't, mentally I was creating like a difference between having actual carbohydrates and, this shake that I was having. So that was kind of important. Honestly, I think that Vince Gironda's steak and eggs diet is a great way to get off of carbohydrates. But the problem is he had you having a meal of carbohydrates every few days to replace your muscle glycogen. The way that I do it was the way that a lot of people do it. That means I would go 6 days with no carbs and 1 day I would refeed, okay? It's very similar to like the anabolic diet, Mario de Pasquale's anabolic diet, where you'd have 1 or 2 days on the weekend where you would do a carb refeed, high carb, low fat, and the rest of the week would be high fat, low carb. The problem that I have with that, and that's a great diet that does help you get off carbohydrates. The problem I have with that is when I was on that diet, okay, what happened actually was I would kind of like fantasize about carbohydrates all week. So on one hand, it's good knowing that, you know, come Saturdays, which is Saturday is when I did my refeed days, I could have donuts. Come Saturday, I could have pasta. Come Saturday, I have cake and drink soda and put sugar in my coffee, etc., which kind of helps me stay off carbohydrates all week. However, the problem that I was actually having with that is I was fantasizing about carbs all week. You know, I was actually, you know, it was almost like a, I mean, what's a, you know, what's an eating disorder? You know, I mean, it was a very healthy diet. It was certainly working. I was getting stronger. I was getting leaner. You know, I was getting weaned off carbohydrates slowly. But I was having like an unhealthy relationship to carbs. I was like, okay, I just need to go another 5 days, another 4 days, another 3 days. And then what am I going to do? Okay, this weekend, I'm going to get donuts for breakfast. And then I'm going to drink soda. And then I'm going to have a milkshake. And I'm going to do this and this. You know, so I still, like I said, didn't break off this relationship with carbohydrates. Whereas when I went on the targeted ketogenic diet, you know, the only carbs that I had were in the shake before and after I worked out. And that's interesting because I've gone on this diet, you know, before, or like recently, after having no carbohydrates, and people would ask me, they'd be like, well, don't you have a problem, you know, with carbohydrates where you want to start binging or you want to start eating carbs again because they know I'm a carb addict? You know, and I say no, because it's not, you know, it's not like I'm only having this before and after I work out. I'm not having it for fun. And I'm just drinking a protein shake that has extra dextrose, is what I actually use these days. Dextrose in it, you know, so it's a tiny little bit sweeter, not much sweeter because dextrose isn't that sweet, but a little bit sweeter than a normal protein shake. That's all it is. So because I have this like mental barrier between the shake I have before and after I work out and carbohydrates, as in like eating donuts or eating pasta or whatever, I'm not having the thing in my head where I'm like, okay, I eat a little bit of carbs and I want to binge again. So like I said, normally if somebody were to ask me how I started on low carb dieting, I would say it was Vince Gironda's steak and eggs diet. But looking back, the very first diet that I went on that actually broke my carbohydrate addiction, that actually got me away from eating rubbish, that actually got me, I lost almost 40 pounds in, you know, in under 4 months. So I mean, it got me in the best shape of my life up to that point, at least. And that was, like I said, a targeted ketogenic diet. So if you're having a hard time, like physically getting off of carbohydrates, you know, physically getting off of this addiction, physically detoxifying yourself from carbohydrates, you might want to try that, where you take only a measured amount of carbohydrates only around your workouts, okay? And like I said, once you've broken the mental and physical and emotional addictions that you have to carbohydrates, then you can move on to a more traditional ketogenic diet where you have absolutely no carbohydrates, if you want. And if you're a high performance athlete, and if you need the explosive power, like for sprinting or for plyometrics or for, you know, like I say, a boxer or a kickboxer has to hit the mitts explosively, you might want to just stay on that diet, okay? If you really want to find out exactly how to do the diet, just go ahead and check out my Anaerobics Diet 3.0. I've done it 3 times, okay, 3 different versions, and I've improved it every time. So right now I'm on the 3rd version, okay, which is like the highest, you know, best version that I've created so far, using my experience on the first 2 versions, and of course, you know, checking out like you know, all the new research to find out exactly what the best way is to get the best carbohydrates and the best amounts at the best times. So if you want to check it out, and if you want to use this as a stepping stone to a real, you know, carb-free lifestyle, just go ahead and check out the Anaerobics Diet. If you're watching this video on Instagram, click on the link in my profile and click on Anaerobics Diet 3.0. If you're watching this on YouTube, just click on the link right below the video. Okay, but like I said, that's an interesting way of dealing with the physical, emotional, mental addictions and dependencies that you have on sugar, while slowly weaning your body off physically. All right, the anaerobics diet 3.0. Go ahead and check it out.